I called this board meeting of Havre Public School District 16 and 8 to order. Will Jake Ingram please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Everyone is present, Mr. Chair, except for Trustee De La Vega.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 14th meeting of the Havre School District Board of Trustees. Copy of tonight's meeting agenda is on the table near the door. At this meeting, the board takes official action on agenda items. Items of information and discussion may also be on the agenda. Comments will be solicited from the audience throughout the meeting. Following introduction of the agenda item, the board chair will recognize those who wish to speak to the item. If you have comments, please come to the microphone so that the board can hear you. Following input from the public on a given item, the board may ask questions and public input will cease and board deliberations will begin. Please note that the board is bound by ethical practice, district policy, negotiated agreements, and Montana statute to protect the privacy rights of its employees and students. Therefore, comments which may be construed as evaluation of the performance of a district employee are not allowed in an open meeting. The board has developed policies and procedures to process concerns about programs, curriculum, learning materials, and personnel. The public will be given an opportunity to bring to the board general questions and comments immediately following items of new business. In the public comment portion at our board meeting, the board may not take any action on matters brought to the attention of the board during this period unless specific notice of that matter is included in a properly noticed agenda. Therefore, in the public comment portion of the meeting, the board will not discuss or take any action, but may refer a matter presented to a future agenda. Thank you for attending our meeting. For presentations, up first, we have the Sunnyside fifth grade.
No, we've got the middle school.
We have the Havre Middle School Student Council, I believe, right?
Yep. Kurt, if you want to come on up.
All right, Chair, trustees, and rest of the board. When we were thinking about what we wanted to present tonight as a middle school group, we saw kind of what Lincoln McKinley and Highland Park and Sunnyside did, and everything that they did was fantastic. Those little kids are amazing. And then we thought, well, what do we do at our building? We got band concerts and we got choir concerts and we got sports and we got all this, but that's always open to the public. Anyone can come see any one of those things and see how amazing our kids are at those events. But we thought, when I met with the student council here, what is something that the school board really doesn't get to see or the community really doesn't get to see? And what they don't get to see, what you don't get to see, is the amazing staff that we have and their interactions with kids every single day. And so our student council members said that they would be or love to come up and highlight a teacher that's really meant something to them. And with that, we have our first speaker, our super awesome president, Miss Lexi Sparks.
Today I'm going to be talking about Mrs. Ward. Mrs. Ward is my English teacher. She has helped me grow both as a reader and a writer. One of the most important things I've learned is the power of words. Through reading stories, poems, and essays, I've come to realize how language can come and create vivid images, express deep emotions, and communicate important ideas. She has also showed me how to organize my thoughts clearly when writing. She has taught me how to craft strong thesis statements and how to support them with evidence, which has made my essays more focused and persuasive. Now I feel more confident in my writing and making sure it flows from one point to the next. Overall, Mrs. Ward taught me how to become a better communicator, both in writing and understanding the world around me. Mrs. Ward is special to me because of the way she makes every lesson feel engaging and meaningful. She doesn't just teach us grammar or literature, she encourages us to think critically and express ourselves confidently. For taking her time to help us understand fully, she makes sure we are always okay and is always checking up on us. She is always understanding and lenient and gives us time to work on assignments depending on the circumstance. I love that she has passion for teaching and she finds ways to make sure we feel important and understood. She makes us feel respected by listening to our ideas, whether big or small. Whenever I am struggling with concept or an assignment, she never makes me feel bad for asking a question. Instead, she provides support and encouragement. Overall, Mrs. Ward is special because she inspires me to do my best. She treats her students with kindness and respect. I'm lucky to learn from someone who truly cares about their students and their growth. Mrs. Ward had a big impact on me. English was never my strongest subject, but Mrs. Ward always makes me make sure to take one-on-one time with her students and help them try to understand better. She helped me a lot by taking it into my perspective and trying to teach my way and help me understand the concepts better and more efficiently. Overall, Mrs. Ward is my favorite teacher and is always there for me and had a great impact on my learning.
My teacher is Miss Otten. Miss Otten teaches math, and I've had her for 2 years in a row now. On top of that, she's also my volleyball coach. Miss Otten is special because she is funny, relatable, and still manages to teach us well. I never really understood math, but Miss Otten helped me catch up. Miss Otten is also special because of how well she deals with me and my classmates. Miss Otten has impacted me by making math more fun. Miss Otten has made math a lot easier for me. Her way of teaching has really helped me feel smarter. She was also good at teaching me how to play volleyball better because it's only my first year.
Hi, my name is Braxton, and my favorite teacher is Mr. Olet. Mr. Olet teaches industrial arts at HMS, and I've learned a lot from his class. He has taught me about the different tools in the workshop, how they work, and the importance of using them safely. He introduced me to the SketchUp program, which we use to measure and design our projects. Mr. Olet is a special teacher because he always has so much positive energy. He's funny, always in a good mood, and makes me laugh a lot. He talks to me about things outside of school, like my family and the sports I play, which makes me feel like he really cares about me. When I struggled with a project, he would encourage me, which gave me confidence. Mr. Olet has made a big impact on me by showing me how to learn new things and not give up even when something gets hard. I only had him for 1 quarter, but I know I can go to him if I need any help or having a hard time. Moving from Sunnyside to HMS was a lot easier because of him.
My name is Peyton Tomac, and I'm in 8th grade. My favorite teacher is Mr. Pomeroy. He teaches PE. In his class, we've learned that hard work and dedication will take you somewhere. Mr. Pomeroy is always kind no matter what. In my personal life, Mr. Pomeroy has helped me through rough mornings and bad afternoons. He is always willing to help somebody in need. Thank you, Mr. Pomeroy.
I'm Lincoln Houston, and I'm in 8th grade. My favorite teacher is Miss Phileas. She teaches PE and strength and conditioning. With her, I have learned how to lift safely and do exercises properly. She is special because she deals with a lot of bad behavior. She also helps me and is really understanding about missing school and making up work.
She has impacted me by always being kind, but also how if you're going to miss days, she helps you figure out a win and what to do to make it up. Thank you. My name is Cody McNew, and my favorite teacher is Miss Hendricks. She teaches math, but I have learned important life skills, including never giving up no matter how hard the situation or equation is. Her passion for the subject and her ability to explain difficult concepts make her stand out from other teachers. She has inspired me to keep working hard and believe in my abilities. Thank you for everything. My teacher is Miss Vogel. I am currently in two of Miss Vogel's classes, Careers and Literature, but she also teaches English. I have learned a lot of things from her, but Careers has really helped me start thinking about my future, and also reading isn't that terrible. Miss Vogel is special because she is kind, funny, smart, and her teaching style is laid back, but we still learn a lot. As a student, her personality is very friendly, and she is easy to talk to. I look forward to her class every day. She has made me realize that reading doesn't have to be difficult or boring, and I'm very thankful for her. My teacher is Mrs. MG. I have her in my 7th period, geography. I have learned about many countries and cultures so far. Mrs. MG is special because she has a great personality and understands her students. She does not make any of her students feel stressed about the work that they need to do. She is one of those teachers that can be strict without being mean or rude to the students. She has impacted me by showing me that school subjects can be fun to learn and interesting. My, my favorite teacher is Miss Evans. She teaches English. I have learned that reading is really good. I also learned that literature is not as boring, is not a boring class. She is special because she is kind and she is the best teacher. She impacted me by reading, and I've been reading a lot since then. My name is Joshua Tomac, and I'm in 6th grade. The teacher I'm writing about is Miss Armstrong. She teaches Montana history for 6th graders. I've learned a lot in her class. One of the things I've learned in her class is the fur trade in Montana and the effects they've had on the Native Americans. She is special because she is kind and diligent. She has had a big impact on me. The reason she has had a big impact on me is because she has taught me how to be kind, respectful, and a good listener. My name is Paula McNair, and my favorite teacher is Miss McBride. She teaches me literature. Miss McBride brings energy and a true love to every story she introduces to us. Miss McBride is special because she cheers me up every time I walk into her room. She makes her classroom a stress-free place to learn. She has impacted me by introducing me to new books. Because of her, I have found a new book series that I enjoy reading, and now I am reading a lot more often. Thank you for all you do.
So just kind of hoping, and the student council is hoping that paints a little bit of a picture of the impact that our teachers have on our kids. We first want to thank our parents, our amazing parents, for allowing our kids to do this tonight. I also want to thank my super awesome leadership team that you have before you. They really do an amazing job. The dance that they put on about a month ago was probably the best dance we've had since I've been here. And I believe we have a Valentine's dance coming up as well that they've been really planning on. I think we just saw a bunch of lights get ordered, if I remember right, too, that just came in today, too. So we got that coming up, and we're inviting 6th graders this time. Is that what we decided? I let them be, that's their call if they wanted to bring them or not, and they said definitely, so let's do it. But just so you kids know, this is hard, this is tough, but you know, you guys did a pretty fantastic job. I see a bunch of future leaders here before you. Maybe a few public speakers even out there too. So thank you for your time. And once again, parents, once again, thank you for allowing them to be here and talk about our staff that we have here. Thank you.
Great job.
Middle school students, thank you very much for coming and sharing that with us. It does help paint a picture for us what our teachers are doing in our schools each and every day. So thank you for the time and having the courage to come before us, because a lot of people do struggle with that. Our next up is our Pony Pride Award.
Yep. Jill, if you want to come up, please.
Thank you for this opportunity to recognize an amazing colleague. There are many to choose from, which you have heard, and we have a lot of really professional and talented teachers. So it's a privilege today to tell you that today's Pony Pride recipient is Lindsay Ratliff. Lindsay is constantly in motion to improve herself and the community. She attended Fairfield High School and graduated from Concordia College in social studies education. Mrs. Ratliff has a love of learning, and just last summer, she was one of 12 participants out of a pool of 200 for a week-long STEAM seminar in Gardner and Yellowstone, Montana. And that's just one of the things that she's done, the latest. Lindsay supports teachers. So a fun thing about her is she has served as the HEA vice president and building representative for years. And I think she's perpetually involved in the high school courtesy committee, organizing and hosting meals and activities to encourage all of us teachers to come out of our rooms and socialize. And I've really enjoyed her PIR classes. Mrs. Ratliff is the art club advisor, and art shows and murals in the community are thanks to Lindsay and her students. She is the close-up advisor. So in just a few days, they are traveling to DC to have an absolutely memorable trip to the inauguration. She's traveled with over 75 students, and I know this is something that students look forward to and that they'll continue to do. In the community, Lindsay serves on the Hill County Council and performs in math theater, among several other things. She is a teacher that makes connections with her students, and she has a passion for learning and for learning and adventure that she shares pretty much with everyone that comes in her path. And so it's a privilege to nominate Lindsay as this month's Pony Pride.
Next up, we will have our Outstanding Achievement Awards for our high school students from the fall sports.
Yes. So just to give you just kind of a quick rundown on the all-state selection. So we received our fall sport all-state selections. To be selected as an all-state player, it's definitely a rigorous process, right? So you kind of at the end of the season, the coaches gather together, right? And all the different coaches are kind of vying for their positions to be selected. So the competition's steep, right? So you've got like in this case, so the all-state selections from the eastern half of the state of Montana were selected. So tonight you're going to have volleyball and football. So to be nominated and then also selected in this category is quite an honor. It's not an easy pick. So one thing I'd like to say about our students is they did not only a phenomenal job on whether that was the field or the court, but I think they represented Havre High School at the highest level. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our chair, Tim Shealy, and our vice chair, Kristen Heilman. After they call out your name, if you could just stay standing with your certificate up here. Once we have everyone together, then Holly will come by and take a picture of the group with our board as well. So.
And we want to take this opportunity. The reason we do it is we want to highlight the exceptional job that you have done and the commitment that you've dedicated to the sport that you're in. You guys all worked extremely hard to earn this, and it's not something that's given, but you have to earn it. So we commend you for the hard work that you guys put into this process. And Mrs. Heilman, if you want to hand them to them, I'll read their names.
And I know that a couple of our all-state selections couldn't make it tonight, so but we'll go ahead and read through.
Okay, for volleyball, we have Ariana Gary. Kristen, I don't think these are in order, so. For football, we have Trey Gary. For football, we also have Tate Nelson. Football, we also have Coulter Solomon. And then we have Gage Chapman for football. And Tommy Lewis for football. And if we could get a photo over here with you guys, that would be great. Yep. So if the board wants to come over here. I know it's not all of you, everybody that earned it, but thank you guys for coming. Are there any agenda deletions or corrections at this time, Mr. Gunn?
None at this time.
Okay. With that, we have the consent agenda. With any questions or pieces that anybody wants to take a little more time to look at here. If not, Mrs. Bitts, do you have anything that you need to point out, or Mr. Gum? Okay. Okay.
And if they haven't subbed in about the last 4 years, we asked them if they still wanted to continue to let us know, and if not, then we would go ahead and kind of clean up the.
Okay.
And so we did have a.
Okay. Okay. All right. There's no other questions.
I have one question. This might be a little bit of an awkward question, so I apologize for that. I just noticed there's somebody here in the audience that is part of the consent agenda. Is there any? Leave it be? What? Get up. Yeah. Perfect. So, okay. Okay.
Not yet.
Sorry for that.
Is there anybody that would wish, would anybody like to make a motion? Thank you. On the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Kristen and seconded by Lorraine that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? Okay. Can you do it here or in the open? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, seeing as there's no comments, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed. Okay, 7-0. We'll get to you in just a little bit. Okay. Okay, hold on here. My agenda here is all next up.
The items are.
A safe return to schools and continuity.
Yes, there are no changes to the safe return to schools and continuity of service plan, Mr. Chairman.
Now I got it. Okay. We'll move on to C2, the consideration of revised policy 1700.
Yes, I recommend the following adjustments to policy 1700 as presented on this second and final reading. As you know, with 1700, it's a very small change. So when you look down, when you scroll through the policy to level 2 building administrator, we also are adding in the language of direct supervisor. So we kind of talked about that last time, that we're trying to make sure that the intent of this policy and what we actually do moving forward, if somebody was to have a complaint, that we're following through the right chain of command. And so this also gives then, if we had a situation with transportation and maintenance in another area of one of our supervisors, the ability that if a parent did not like the particular outcome or the decision made by that level supervisor or building administrator, the next step would go right to me versus having another step in the process, which could potentially push it out another 3 weeks plus. So if we follow the language with this, it just makes sense that we make that adjustment.
Okay. Any member of the board have any questions or comments on the policy adjustment? Okay. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the revision to policy 1700 as presented.
Sarah, second.
Second.
It's been moved by Garrett and seconded by Kristen that we approve the revision to policy 1700 as presented. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimous. C3, Indian policy and procedures.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the Indian policy and procedures 1 through 6 as presented on the second and final reading. The last meeting, we had a request that we spelled out LEA. So that's the local education agency. So in this policy, then I went and made that adjustment for this policy. That was the one kind of recommendation going in to the second reading. When you look through this policy, one of the nice features we have is having Katie Marsenko, who's our Indian Education for All and Title VI coordinator, already working and navigating within the building this year. When you read through the different requirements, we'll talk a little bit about that next level board meeting when I get to the superintendent's report. But we're already checking off a lot of these things right now. So while this is one of the requirements for impact aid, a lot of the work we do at Havre Public Schools already has we've already met some of these standards already through the work we do. So that's a positive.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on that one? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve agenda item C3, the Indian policy and procedures 1 through 6 on second and final reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Garrett and seconded by Lorraine that we approve agenda item C3, Indian policy and procedures 1 through 6 on second and final readings. Does any member of the audience wish to speak to the motion? Does any member of the board wish to speak to the motion? Seeing as there are none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 7-0. C4.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment, please? Is there any, I would just like to make a motion. I know you're not entertaining one right now, but I'd like to make a motion just to table item C4 and D 1 through 3 and go to the public comment. So Mr. Van Kampen doesn't have to sit through the board evaluation. Obviously, he's here to speak to the board. I would like to make that motion. If you wouldn't mind entertaining one. If anybody has a problem.
So you want to table
C4 and then D 1 and 2. Just until public comment. If anybody has an issue with that, that'd be okay. Just think it's
move up the public comment portion. Essentially just move up public comment portion.
That's it. Yep.
In front of C4.
Yep. We have quite a bit to take care of before that. And obviously he's here just to speak. So I think we should just allow him that opportunity.
Okay. Is there any objection to making that? Okay. So you would make that motion?
Yeah, I can make that motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to table agenda items C4 and agenda items D1 and 2 to be brought back onto the table after the public comment portion of the meeting.
Okay, is there a second for that? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Let me get to piece I have to read here. Okay. All right, now we are at the public comment portion of our meeting. This is an opportunity for any member of the audience to bring to the attention of the board questions or relevant comment concerning school district matters not on the agenda. The board may not take any action on matters brought to the attention of the board unless specific notice of that matter is included in a properly noticed agenda. Therefore, in the public comment portion of the meeting, the board will not discuss or take any action, but may refer a matter presented to a future agenda. If you have comments, please come to the microphone so that the board can hear you. Are there any persons present wishing to comment at this time?
Well, I apologize about the confusion. I tried to get on the earlier, but I was too late. I needed 48 hours. But anyways, I'm here tonight. As you all probably have heard, I'm resigning from my position as a teacher effectively this Friday. And I just I thought it was proper for me to come in and tell everybody up here that I've worked with and worked for, thank you so much for everything you've done for me and my kids. I have my oldest is in college now, so and my youngest is a sophomore. A lot of you guys have seen them through from when they're little to graduation. And it's been a privilege to work here. I just really wanted to come out here, and it's not easy. I'm not a public speaker, but I wanted to say thank you to everybody that was here because you've all impacted my life in some manner throughout my career. And I'm excited for my new opportunity and just kind of fell in my lap. My intention was never to leave the school district during the school year. I know how hard it is. But as the saying goes, there's no perfect time. So in my case, I had to jump on it and take it. I think we have a pretty good plan in place to replace me. I know it's a struggle and puts burden on many shoulders, but working here, I know the people that will step up and help each other through this process. I'm not really leaving as far as moving or anything. What I'm going to be doing is working for American Fidelity, selling health and life insurance to teachers. So I'll still be working around these parts and all over the state. But I needed to do what I felt was best for me and my kids and my future. And it was presented to me and I jumped on it. So I just wanted to come out and personally thank these two, Mrs. Bitts and Mr. Gum, for everything that they've done. They're great leaders and great people to work for. They personally helped me. I mean, Holly drove me to the ER from my house one time, and we were kind of laughing about this the other day. Going up the hospital hill, I slunched over, and she, not on my watch, she said, threw me back in the and she stayed there with me all day because I don't have family, and so that's the type of people that I will always remember that I've worked for. Everybody in this district has helped me along in my career personally. We're both, and you're in really good hands with these two. I appreciate it. And I'm not ignoring you guys up there. You guys know we go way back, almost 20 years, some of us. And Kurt, we sat along the softball field when we were in college and had some waters. So it's a community, you know, and I'll still be around. Some of your, like Coda, I taught you a couple of years, you know, all these kids used to say that I was their favorite teacher. They're liars. So, but anyways, this whole program has meant a lot to me. The people that are in it and the students, you know, that's what I'll miss is working for you guys. And just everything. So I just wanted to come out before I get all teary-eyed and say thank you very much for everything you guys have done for me and my family. So thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Thank you, Mr. Van Kampen, for coming and talking to us and letting us know directly. It's not easy to do that. I was in your shoes 17 years ago, and I understand why you're doing it. So, but thank you for coming and addressing us and letting us know, you know, how that process went. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Is there any other members of the audience that would like to come and speak to the board? If not, we will go back to C4, the board performance assessment and meeting evaluation tool. Does everybody have their assessment here? It's it's a little bit long, so we're gonna kind of expedite the process a little bit this year. I think there's 11 pages to this thing. So members of the audience, we will try and expedite this process as much as we can for your sanity. So as we go through it, if there's anything that you want to bring to the attention that we either did well or that we need to maybe do a little bit better job of addressing it in the future, you want to call that to our attention. We won't go through it line by line, but we'll go through it by section. So the first section is board meetings and agenda. The only thing that I thought maybe we could work on possibly is making sure that the microphone is close enough to us when we're deliberating. Sometimes I think that could be a little bit difficult. Sometimes we forget to lean into the microphone so that the audience can hear us. That would be my one area on that section that we could probably improve a little bit on. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that section?
The only one I think we've talked about in the past is
Into the microphone.
like 8, 9, and 10. Where I know 8, it was how to participate brochures. I don't think we actually post how to participate brochures at the front door. Right?
No, I think we just have the agenda.
Yeah. And then signs visible. There's really nothing when you walk in that says board meeting in auditorium. And then on 10, we don't leave a parliamentary procedure book or the board policy book and school law.
We have
In the office, but
yeah,
not-
we have
okay.
had that before out here.
Yeah, it used to be
Okay.
sit there.
Yeah, but it
fairly
used to be
regular.
sitting right there with the agendas and the
Okay.
cookies. So you're besides some type of brochure in terms of participation.
Yeah, I mean, if it's specifically asking us if we have it and we don't,
Okay.
and I think there was a trustee last year that brought it up.
And then like a sign, Garrett, like kind
Yeah,
of
it just
like
says,
maybe something standing
there are
out front
signs
of the
visible in
building.
the building to direct the public to the meeting room location, which we don't have anything out there that says in auditorium, or whatever that would be. I mean, it's pretty obvious once you kind of start walking in where it's at, but for a new person to the community, they might not know.
Sure. And then your third one was?
Just the one right below it, number 10, the parliamentary procedure book.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if it has to be present in the room with us. I mean, I'm sure we have one. In
Probably in the
admin. I think there's
office.
one in admin, yeah, so.
Okay.
Okay.
We can look at making some adjustments there for those. Those
I
are
mean,
not,
they're just blatant ones. I know we've had
Right,
it in
sure.
a few years past, the same comments come up, so.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll look at those.
okay. Any other thoughts on that section? Okay, if not, we'll move to meeting conduct. The one piece in there, number 3, the adheres to the rules. We may not adhere exactly to parliamentary procedure, but it's a consistent process that we use. And then speaking with MTSBA, as long as it's a consistent process, that's really the important part of it. That we have a consistent piece if a member of the public wants to come talk at one of our board meetings. So I don't know parliamentary procedure 100%, so we make kind of a modified version.
Right. And Dib sent us over those cliff notes.
Yep.
It's not necessarily Robert's Rules of Order. It has a little different. It's kind of a knockdown version from certainly what they use. But we can kind of look through that too and go back into that email and see if we could, send those out if we thought it'd be helpful just as a reminder.
It was interesting as we talked to MTSBA on one of our meetings that we had, they actually said parliamentary procedures Our
Right.
Robert's rules in particular don't even take effect unless there are at least 15 people in the meeting, I believe is what they told us. Does anybody else?
Yeah, there
recall?
were some specifics. You're right, Jake, and
Yeah.
that's why they
'Cause we
kind
were-
of went away from that.
Yeah, we were actually asking for training on the parliamentary procedures and Robert's rules in specific, and that was what she said, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if we are inconsistent, let us know. We try and be pretty consistent and fair, is how we conduct the meeting. But,
I gave that one a little bit of a low rating as well, but for the exact same reason, because technically we don't necessarily always follow parliamentary procedure per se, but I think you summed it up well with saying that we follow a predefined outline.
the only other one that I wanted to highlight was number 19. The executive session piece. With our new allowing out of district kids in, that's become a pretty common thing that we have to go into. Where before that was like every 2 years. Now it's probably every other meeting we have to have an executive session to approve those. So I think it's gotten a little bit less intimidating than what it used to be. So.
There is a spelling error on 19 as well.
Thanks, Karen.
Is, it's missing the I.
Oh,
I actually noted it. I guess I was like, wait a second.
okay. Well, we'll have to get that fixed. You are the local speller, so.
I am the worst one, probably.
Okay, does anybody else have any thoughts or concerns on that section? And members of the audience, as we're talking, if you hear something and you want to bring up a piece on it, feel free to holler and come down to the mic or speak from wherever you're at. That's fine. Oh. It's a really good idea. Thank you. Did everybody hear that? Okay. There's nothing else on that one of the overall meeting evaluations. Any thoughts? Yay, that we do well or we don't do well. I didn't have anything that stood out on that one, so. If nothing on that one, we'll move to the next section, which is board superintendent relations. I think this one goes hand in hand with the evaluation we just did last month. And most of that was a pretty positive evaluation for Mr. Gum. So if there's any thoughts or concerns on that section, let us know.
One thing I just observed was number 6 maintains a professional salary for the superintendent. It's been brought to our attention that currently the salary range that we had offered previously during our hiring is substantially lower than the average for Class A schools through Montana. So that might be something that we, need to look at and adjust in future contracts.
Okay. The next section, board community relations. From what I know, I think we do a pretty good job on this, of making ourselves available as best we can in our day-to-day lives. I hear you guys do answer people back when they have a question or concern. and I think you guys have done a pretty good job of, not, number one is the piece I think that sometimes gets boards in trouble is when a board will commit to a position before we've actually heard everything out at the meeting where we can have a discussion. That one tends to get boards in trouble, more than anything from what I've heard around the state. But I feel that we do a pretty good job of not committing until we hear it at the meeting. So, that would be my one area that I think you guys are doing a great job. Anything else on that one? Okay, the next section, board qualities. Anything stand out or area of concern on that one? We'll do board qualities and personnel relations, excuse me.
One thing that stood out to me is I think every member of this board really has a sincere and unselfish interest in public education and the growth of students. I think that we are all here for those reasons, and I just wanted to acknowledge that and highlight it. One that I kind of had a question on, and I kind of wasn't sure how to rank this, is item 5, which is visible in the community. And in terms of a board, obviously we can gather as a board at a, publicly noticed meeting, and, we're on recording, which is posted, but I guess I wasn't sure if there was something else that, this question was getting at that would be appropriate. I think, you kind of got at it too, Tim, that, we only act as a board when we're all together. And I think we're all thoughtful about that. So that was the only one that I kind of wasn't sure. I think we do a good job noticing our meetings and making a point to attend. I don't know that there's other things that we're supposed to be doing to be visible as a board in the community, but.
I guess I took that more as from an individual member standpoint. Are you visible yourself in the community? Are you making yourself available to community members to have discussions with topics that they or interests that they may have, things that are concerns they may have? That's how I took that one, but of course I only read it like 5 minutes ago. So I could be wrong.
I think the biggest thing we can do on that area is when we are out, if somebody has a concern or something that's positive going on and they want to share it with us, you can either hear it then or say, this might not be the best time. Can I call you? And I think you guys do a good job of that. And a lot of times it's being present at the school activities, whether that's band, choir, a football game, a volleyball game, or any of the activities. That's probably our best way to be visible. Short of, you going to Walmart or North 40, see a lot of people there. So that's probably about the best we can do because we can't set up a table at the farmer's market. So any other thoughts on that one? The next one is board curriculum responsibilities. This one I think is probably the hardest one. Just to stay abreast of like the curriculum that's going on. I know there's curriculum meetings that we can go to. And sometimes those are not at the most opportune times of the day for us to get to, with jobs and different responsibilities that we have. But, even if you're on the committee and you can't make it to the meetings, calling Mrs. Bitts or somebody that was at the meeting or looking through the notes and keeping abreast of what has been brought forth is probably the best way that we can do that. So, and then just listening to our teachers as issues come up if they contact you. Yes, Mr. Elkins.
Number 1 has sound personnel policies. That one I know we have because I can go find our policies, but including job descriptions.
Where are we at?
Aren't we on personnel relations? Or are you on a different one? Am I out of the way?
We did
Oh, did you lump them together?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
I'm just
We can go
curious,
back. We
on
can go
job
back.
descriptions, where would we actually find them? I mean, I know I could ask for them, but are they posted somewhere that,
We have them all listed and then
Yeah.
as the jobs are posted for open positions,
okay,
they're publicly on the website.
okay.
I think as far as like us having a direct impact on what the job posting is, we're not gonna have necessarily a direct impact on the way our Paris job description is, but at the same time, like Mr. Guns or Holly's or the administrative team, that's where we would have more of a direct impact on those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I was more.
Yeah.
Because it's specific, because again, it just says including job descriptions, it specifically calls
Right.
it out. So that's why I was.
Yeah.
You know, from a janitor service, I don't know where unless there was an opening, where I would
Right.
find it to,
Yeah.
if I had someone ask a question about it, what is their role responsibility? I mean, I'd have to go ask Holly, which is fine, but.
Yeah.
If there was a way that we had them.
Sure.
I was just curious.
Yeah, and if you have any questions on those, Garrett, if somebody asks you about open positions in the building too, you can direct them to either our website, they can come into Robbins directly and look on the board. You could direct them to Holly, to Beth Jensen. So we have all those things posted and available. So yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts? Number 11, financial management. This one, I think we've probably taken more of an active role than this year than we probably ever have as a board. And even last year, trying to make the community aware of why we needed that levy to pass, just the need of it and why it was there. I think the board did a great job of trying to communicate that to the public. It didn't pass, which is fine. We were able to make do, but I felt like last year we did a really good job at the end of the year trying to make everybody aware of it. But this year I feel like we've done a better job of being informed of where the money is at, where it's going, and how it's being spent on different projects, and as well as just our general budget piece. So, and Moses, you've done a great job of helping us.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think every year this is something we've all said that we want to get better at. And I think, every year I feel like I learn more and I understand more, and it's very complex. And I really appreciate the individuals that we have on our team that can help break it down for us and help us to understand and give us clear information. So I really appreciate that.
Okay, any other thoughts on that one? Okay, the next one is board in service. This one, it's hard to keep track of all of the different training opportunities that there are, but I feel like they're there if we need it. And if you read those emails from MTSBA that you get, I think every single day, there's like 14 of them in your email every day. There is a piece that you can keep kind of track of what they're doing at the local and state level. And from discussions, I think a lot of us are doing those pieces. So with the legislature, it becomes really tedious because there is 100 emails a day on what each bill is about, what you should be looking at, how it affects your school. So that piece gets a little bit tedious during legislative session, but they are informative if you have time to look at them.
I really appreciated the law training we had. I thought that one was really good. It was really well attended by all the schools and around this area. And then I appreciate that the district offers up to trustees to attend MCEL. I think that was really informative. I learned a lot there this year. So I'm really appreciative of that too.
Any other thoughts on that one? Kelly is our newest one. Do you have any thoughts on that? There is a lot to take in. It's overwhelming. But you're doing a great job. There's no more on that one. We can do the policy development and goal setting and planning, and then we're just about done. We only have one more after that. The policy, I think everybody has been doing a great job of coming in informed. Brian, you've been doing a good job of trying to get us through lots of policies that have to be adjusted, but seems like everybody's got relevant questions and comments when we do have a policy that comes forward. So I feel like you guys are looking into them and seeing what's relevant to our district. So. And then our goal setting and planning, which we should be concluding and wrapping up. I don't know when that meeting is.
For the strategic planning meeting?
Yeah,
Yep, so that's gonna be next Thursday.
next Thursday.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 23rd. Yep. So, and I'll cover that in the superintendent's when all that stuff
Okay.
is, but yeah.
And
About
that
that.
one
Yep.
really does go through, once we get through that, that'll have a lot of our goal setting and planning for future options for the district. So we're almost done with that piece as well. Any other thoughts or concerns there? Okay, on to our last one, media relations. I don't know that the board actually has a whole lot of media relations. You've done a lot better job of communicating with the media this year than I think we've ever had in the past. So great job on that, but I don't know that we have a whole lot.
Didn't we tell him to do that?
What's that?
Didn't we tell him to do that?
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Great job, us.
Hey, any other thoughts on the media piece? Okay. Thanks everybody in the audience for being patient as we went through all 120 questions really as quickly as we could here. I don't know that we have to.
No, the kind of the uniqueness with this is really it's just part of your requirement as a board to just really kind of go through this tool, kind of have that self-evaluation and talk through it. And then if there's components like Garrett, you mentioned, some different ideas that you have, then Moses and I jot those down, and then we just look to see if we need to make some adjustments on our end, or if you all feel you could make that adjustment internally. But there isn't like an action required per se.
Okay. Since we don't have to have an action, let's move on to D1.
Yes. So this consideration of revised policy 7520 financial management, it's on the first reading. I recommend the approval of the revised policy 7520 financial management on first reading only. However, I know when we've had some discussions on what would that look like in terms of the independent investment accounts, and do we need to add in additional language so that it's present that depending on monetary amounts that are moved in and out of those investments, based on the situation that occurred previous, the board wanted to have some control and some thought into as money moves in and out of accounts. And so with that, I put down a sample. If you would like to use a different sample, if you have some different language you'd like to add in, this is a first reading. So we can adjust the language if you would rather see something in place of what we came up with. And then we'll go with that on first reading, and then could bring it around next month for a second reading. So I'll leave that now open to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think the biggest part of this is whether it's a CD or the individual, that new flex, whatever it's called.
So the STIP.
The STIP, there you go. Just that we make sure that it's used, for the intended purpose and that that it's not just being pulled out and then, well, we'll replace it once this other fund comes in if we get that piece. Which we don't want that to happen. Because that could potentially not come through or deplete our funds. This is really kind of our district, if you will, our savings account for an emergency that would come up, like a roof collapsing at the high school or a boiler that goes bad in the middle of a school year that we would need to replace. And we don't have those funds, in our building reserve options. So it's more of like kind of that emergency piece. And you had said it at that 80,000. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that. I would rather see that piece, if any of the funds are taken out, transferred out from the district's money, excluding our student accounts, Mr. Kraske. I think we could separate the two out because they would be identified differently in that STIP account, where we could make it so that we wouldn't necessarily have to have that piece for our student accounts unless it exceeded that $80,000 removal piece for the student activity piece. And I think that would be an appropriate measure, or do you have different thoughts on that? Everybody, and the other piece of it is Mr. Kraske had requested that we give the student activities the option to invest into that as well, to get a little bit of return on their funds that sometimes sit there for 9 months out of the year, which I think is a good way to maximize their fundraising and what they've done responsibly to build those funds up. If anybody has any thoughts or questions on that.
So Tim, just to paraphrase, am I hearing, so maybe instead of the proposed additional sentence, we might say something to the effect of the board will approve all fund transfers for student accounts, student investment accounts when the amount exceeds the $80,000 threshold. All other Havre public school district funds transfers must be approved by the board of directors or something to that effect. Is that kind of how you're proposing it?
Yeah,
So
yeah, that would
the
be
$80,000 threshold would be specific to the student accounts. And then there would be no dollar threshold to all other district fund investment accounts. Am I understanding that right?
That's the way I would do it. That's just me. We have a $2 million investment in there in order to protect that savings account from not just being whittled down over time of 60,000 or 20,000. Not saying Brian or Moses have any intentions to do that, but it could be done that way. This way it protects that savings account to where it's not being drawn down slowly and the board's not necessarily aware of it.
So how do we approve it if they needed it tomorrow? I'm just curious. If they called and said they needed 5,000 out, how would we approve that, an emergency meeting?
We could have an emergency meeting, but I mean, $5,000, I would think the district would be able to, with the cash that we have on hand, we could flex that out of an account, out of our general fund, out of our cash on hand to cover it until the next, 2 weeks.
Okay, so let's go to 25,000. That's all I'm saying is if the purpose of that was to be a little more fluid with your funds in an emergency scenario, boiler goes out tonight. How do we, obviously we may have an emergency meeting just so that I'm just looking at the approval aspect when you go to follow the rules and how do you do it? We can't do it via email. We can't do it via text. We would have to come in or do a virtual. Is that, I mean, are we okay with that? I'm just asking. I understand why you're saying for yes, all. I'm just curious. You know, emergency meeting, is that how we'd have to handle that? Or is it going to wait until 2 weeks when we have our next meeting?
If there was a true emergency, we could have an emergency meeting. And we could call that, you know.
Okay.
But I don't know that I've ever seen a true emergency that we had to have $25,000 available in 5 days, or, you know, that we couldn't, you know, cover for a 2-week span. I've never seen in my time that.
Yeah, and between Flex and Interlocal and stuff, I mean, we could handle that piece on a typical thing, right? Until that following meeting. So I think that's not too hard of an ask, but you bring up a good point, Garrett.
That's all I'm
is that,
thinking from operations
yep, is
standpoint.
to say,
will that work at an operations level to say,
right, if adjusting this language, then are we putting ourselves in a handicap situation if something came up overnight and bam, there we are, and it's 2 weeks out. So, yep, totally get your point.
and from a student fund standpoint, 80,000 seems too high.
Well, I think that piece is going to be.
I'm just saying, I mean, 80,000 is the only time we know they're moving them around. I mean, 5,000, I don't know what the plan is or what the dollar amount is, because we haven't seen any of that, right? A true plan of how much we may put into STIP.
Dustin spoke a little bit at the one meeting about it. Yeah, he definitely has a plan, and I know following tonight's meeting, he was going to circle back and then come back at a later date with kind of a game plan moving forward.
Correct. I just think 80 seems high for student funds to be put in, and that's the only time that we then approve it coming in and out. I don't know. I would lower it. That's my suggestion. To like 10,000, but I don't know how, I mean, and that's individual accounts, because FFA could put 5 in and basketball could put 3 in, and, you know, whatever band might put 10 in. Okay, now that's where we just want to know the band is taking that out, and maybe a reason why they need 10 grand, because then we might have to look at it at a budgeting standpoint too, of was there a reason? Is there something we need to look at budgeting to help in the future?
But correct me if I'm wrong, but those student accounts do not belong to the district, correct? Those are separate funds that have been raised by the students that are not district and are not budgeted within our district
or
budget.
have been, have went out like for the corporate
So if that's the
sponsorship.
case,
Corporate
donations.
That's a completely separate
Right.
than district funds, correct?
I think that 80,000 that's his.
It was an arbitrary number. I know, but you were kind of saying too that 80, using arbitrary, I'm just, I guess, saying that 80 seemed high to me.
I don't even know what account we have.
And the reason we went with 80 was just that's based on the fact if I'm going to approve something in the district, if it's above that $80,000 mark, then I need to put in a request to the school board. Otherwise, I can approve any amount up to that level. So that's why we tried to kind of use that just to kind of for consistency in operation. But
And I believe that number is in state law. Is
Correct.
where that number
Correct.
is coming
Yep.
from, that 80,000.
Yep. You'll find that like in the bid process and stuff, it speaks to that $80,000 mark, Kristen, you're correct.
I remember that number from when we did the track. That's why.
Yep.
And to be fair, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but those student accounts haven't required any approval from the board anyways prior to this to move around as they
Correct.
need. So that we would be basically imposing additional restrictions on them and almost punishing them by trying to earn interest on those funds, which I think is a good thing that they're trying to earn interest and practice good savings on those funds. So I don't want to make it onerous for them to utilize those funds when they need them, I guess, is my concern.
So do we even need it listed if they're not our funds from a board standpoint?
Potentially not. I that piece was there, so.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Maybe the wording just goes back to district funds.
Or does it?
And you
become-
just, you leave that.
I mean, I could see maybe a separate policy on student activity accounts and
Or maybe you just say excluding student accounts, all fund transfers for Havre Public Schools district funds or investment
Mhm.
accounts will be approved by the school. So then you've just excluded
Mhm.
the student accounts entirely with no threshold.
Did we just go from 80,000 to 10,000 to no threshold? Is that what just happened here?
Yeah.
well, that's on the
One.
student one though.
Okay.
Dustin, does anybody have $80,000 in their account?
Mhm. Yeah, we do have a couple.
Do they typically need $80,000 in one shot? Right, that would be my thing is if they're needing $80,000, we would probably need to either be looking at supporting them or why is this huge expense coming up? Not that we'd want to hinder them, but why are we needing $80,000
Right.
for the band to go somewhere? I don't know.
Yep.
So, but we could do it any way though. We could set it up either way.
No, I'm just was asking questions.
Yep.
It's good.
So does anybody have a thought as to which direction we want to go? Or do we look at it? Do
Yeah,
we think
yeah.
about it for the second reading?
Well, you could make a motion if somebody had some language on the proposal on what you'd like to fit in. And then we can take that down and see where it goes.
Anybody have a preference?
I think it's fine just the way that it is. I think if there's abuse of any financial accounts, the news would be getting a hold of it. And over my lifetime in Havre,